Lee from the Oshkosh Beer Blog.
I'm Adam from the Ruby Owl Tap Room.
So, we were just talking. You have 2 sour beers on right now.
2 sour beers on tap, yeah, at all times actually.
Always at the Ruby you have 2?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you have one on over at Gardina's also.
Yeah, I like to usually have one on all the time over there.
I was looking around at Tap List this morning before I came in, and because I was kind of curious to see how many sours are out there right now. Just in the Oshkosh City area right here, there were 9 places that have sours on. There were 14 different sour beers on.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I know. That kind of surprised me. I mean, you get the sense that they're starting to come up in popularity and people are kind of getting into them, but I didn't think it was surprising some of the places that had them too.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of good to see.
That is good. So, when was the turning point? Would you say, or is now the turning point?
I don't know. I think kind of last summer when all those gozes really started getting popular. You saw them in stores all the time, and it seemed like from that point on there's always sours.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the fact that New Glarus has made a commitment to producing sour beer pretty much year round has played a big role, because they're kind of the set the market for craft beer in the state.
Yeah, and I think they were the first ones to do it. I mean, they were doing sours back in '95, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, nobody at that point was really doing other than that. But
yeah, New Glarus Enigma was one of the first sour beers that I had that I really enjoyed when it came out the last time, which I think was like 2011.
And this is another brewery that's doing it. So we could have
maybe we should talk about them.
Yeah, Wease on the Juice from O'so Brewing of
Wease the Juice.
Wease the Juice.
Yeah.
What is that about?
I think it's a reference to a Pauly Shore movie. Somebody was telling me that.
Okay.
I'm not a big Pauly Shore
Maybe
fan.
that's why I missed it.
So I missed it too. But somebody told me that and they loved it. So.
But this is from O'so Brewing in Plover, Wisconsin. They started 2007. And over the last, I'd say, 4 years, they've really started to kind of separate themselves by creating this line of sour beers that's, there's a lot of expectation for these. There's a lot of anticipation when these come out now.
Exactly. I mean, I think kind of their first foray into it was with Levi Funk from Funk Factory. They were brewing the wort for him, and then he was barreling. And I think that may still be. I know they do brew some. I don't know if they brew all of his wort, but that was kind of Jeff Potts and I and a couple other people went to that first release and were just kind of blown away at how good the beers were. So.
Well, it's pretty cool how they do this too, because they'll have they'll have these bottle releases, and I've been there when they have them, and it's all these people come in, they do bottle shares. It's really fun.
Normally we don't delve into this end of the pool with really hardcore craft beer, but this would be considered a sought after bottle of beer, I would think.
Yeah. And it's delicious. I mean, this is this is a blend of 3 different sour beers.
Yeah.
Aged in oak barrels, and
wow.
Yeah, one thing I got right, and then it's aged on, or they go through like a secondary fermentation by putting it on Door County cherries. So I mean, there's all these levels of complexity in here. But the one thing I got immediately, which I always kind of tune in for, is that I get some of that barnyard funk.
Yeah.
There's some Brettanomyces.
Yep, you get that kind of that tanginess, earthiness. But actually, my first sip just now, and could be because I brushed my teeth not terribly long ago, but I got a ton of wood. A lot of kind of vanilla.
Yeah, now you say that.
Oak.
Get that, that little oakiness in there, definitely. So this is a 7% beer, which,
that's a little bit stronger for...
be getting them there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have, one thing we should get into is people tend to think of sour beers as like a style. Yeah. And it's not really a style, it's just a class of beers, and then there's all these subsets. And not all sour beers are created the same way.
No, exactly.
You have some sour beers that get their sourness from lactobacillus. I mean, the 3 big players would be lactobacillus, Brettanomyces, and pediococcus. Lactobacillus and pediococcus aren't yeasts; they're bacteria.
Yeah.
So they don't really produce. They're not proficient at producing alcohol, I should say. Whereas Brettanomyces is actually a yeast, but Brettanomyces doesn't usually give a lot of sourness, so usually it works in combination with pediococcus.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people have the impression that Brett will lead to a sour beer. People who haven't had a bunch of sour beers, and would have kind of either the marketing was strong enough that they thought, or it says wild ale on the label, which people have, thought synonymous with sour beer, and they'll buy a Brett beer and they say, oh, that was kind of weird. It wasn't very sour.
Yeah, Brett, it'll produce a little bit of tartness, but that's not really, that's usually always, a Brett beer, when they're doing sour Brett beers, it's a mixed culture. So they'll have the Brett in there with lactobacillus or pediococcus. Yeah. I tend to prefer the lactobacillus sort of souring.
Yeah.
Lactobacillus is that like tangy thing that gives yogurt. It's that little tartness that it has. Pediococcus to me always gets a little bit harsh. Like
a little too astringent or
back
too
of the throat, kind of like scraping type thing. And I might have a bias against that. I had some friends that were doing mixed culture fermentations, and the ones that had pediococcus in it, it's disgusting. Like if you see the fermentation, it's like this. There's this ropey, like snot-like stuff in there. It's just really unappealing.
Yeah, it's all good bugs and microbes, and I don't feel that way.
But if you get like a Berliner Weiss or a Gose, typically the sourness is coming from lactobacillus. Yeah, and then they'll do a secondary fermentation.
And a lot of those are kettle soured and not.
Yeah. Which is a safe way for a brewer to introduce these kind of cultures into their brewing environment without screwing up the rest of their beer.
That's why this is all the more impressive, because they take the risk of putting it in wood and exposing it to open air and that sort of thing, and they've had issues with that in the past. Lots of breweries have. It's
a hard thing to control.
Yeah.
What's nice about this though too is, brewers will say the real art comes in blending. Yeah. And they did a really nice job of blending this thing. You were mentioning something when we started about, the equivalent to wine. Yeah. How do you think that relates?
Well, because a lot of these are aged in, the sour beers are aged in either used wine barrel or used spirit barrels, and they often come off with a lot of kind of vinous notes and tart fruit flavors, or
here for sure
citrus, or could be red fruit like this beer. But there's just a lot of crossovers with the flavor profiles of some wines and sour beer. So I think that kind of draws a lot of people in who don't like beer in the typical sense, because I would say this is kind of anything but typical when you have that definition of beer in your head. But it draws in kind of a new segment, which I think is great, and that's why I think sour beer has grown so significantly.
And the other thing is, like, often these beers finish quite dry. Yeah. Which is a really nice feature to it, because there is a lot of complexity here, a lot of flavor, but it keeps you drinking it too. It's not like it doesn't build on you. Yeah. It becomes overwhelming.
I see always very low hop profiles in IBUs. There's never any real hop feature other than like Lagunitas Aunt Sally, which we have on tap right now, has a fair amount of late hopping, but not bitterness.
And the reason they do that is because so lactobacillus and pediococcus in particular do not work well with hops, because hops are also an antimicrobial. Yeah. So in that environment, they just kind of crap out. Those bacteria will crap out, and you won't produce the sourness you want. So if you're not into the hoppy thing, but you're looking for a beer that has this kind of really distinct driving kind of flavor, this might be the place to go.
Yeah. And I have to say, sour beer has converted a lot of women, which I think typically that's been a tougher segment for the beer industry in general to get. So because they're so different, because they're kind of tart and
it has that wine-like character that you're saying. It's really it's not that far of a jump into a beer that has a lot of flavor. Yeah.
But hats off to O'so, Central Waters, New Glarus, anybody who's making any bit of sour beer right now, because it's not easy to do well.
No. And I mean, O'so's doing a year-round sour now with their Berliner Weiss.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. We should say something about them too. They're under another big expansion. Yeah. They've they put in a bid. I don't know if they've got the already approved, but on 20 acres of land up in Plover, and it's near Interstate 39. So they'll be moving that whole operation apparently out of that
building a new facility.
And they're doing, like, I think they did 7,000 barrels last year, right around there. But they want to jump up to like 20,000 barrels. Yeah. They hope to be in that new facility by 2018.
If you had to guess, do you think sour beer will be the focus, or do you think they'll?
I don't see how you can reach that kind of barrelage. Doing this kind of beer. It's still going to be a pretty boutique sort of thing. I don't.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to sell a lot of Night Train. Or
Why? Well,
Night Rain.
Night Rain. Yeah. Well, I can tell you that, I mean, just in my experience, that I've seen just the sour beer come to be very, very popular, and it's cool.
This is great.
Yeah.
And we got a little bug here that likes it too.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, Adam.
All right, cheers.
Bros.